So when I was in medical school, I was always on the go, 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 right? And C.S. Lewis said, you know, if Satan can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. So I was just super, super busy. Didn't have time to eat breakfast. I would be chugging back then it was more Tim's, a donut, a muffin, and just go, go, go. Another Tim's, another Tim's, another Tim's. And then I'd be, see, what it does, it spikes your blood sugar up, and then your body produces insulin, and then it drops your blood sugar, and then you have to have another coffee, another go, go, go. And it got to the point where I started to have bleeds in my stomach. I had massive bleeds in actually going through residency, and I ended up in the intensive care unit and basically almost died a few times, right? And it's funny how God puts you through these things so that as you journey on, you can help others, right? And now my gut's really, and you're going to hear about what you can do to really not yawn during the sermon, okay? Because that was one of my, another time when I almost had a head injury was they dimmed the lights, and this is a histology class where they put microscopes up, and I was late getting there because again I was standing near the back, and as they dimmed the lights, I passed out, and I just caught myself as I was plunging to the floor, just at the very last second. Otherwise, I would have had injuries, and I would have, everybody would have looked around. It would have been a total embarrassment, right? And I didn't realize that my sleep was off, right? How many of you here right now, when you wake up, you're not refreshed, right? So more of you. Now, if you have a significant other, how many of you have been told that you snore? Okay, so we're going to share some really important tips so that you aren't like that fellow listening to Paul the Apostle preach and he fell, right? Because he fell asleep, right? So we're going to teach you about some things about eating and about sleeping, right? Now, don't all rush to the carrot soup line, okay? Because, Italian spice food is good too, right? So, and what about the area of exercise? How many here are sitting at a computer? I actually had someone come up to me last week, and they said, well, I'm not sure if I should attend your seminar. And I said, well, what do you do for a living? She, I don't know if she's here right now, but are you here? Oh, yeah, there you are. Oh, yeah, there. Okay. My vision's not there. But we were talking about if you're sitting for hours at a computer, right, it does set you up to have issues. So I'm going to teach you some really practical things on what to do. Okay, so now I was trying to decide whether to have you do this test right now. Is there anybody here over the age of 50? I want to get an idea of ballpark. Okay, so there's a study that just came out last year, the prestigious journal, British Journal of Medicine, Sports Medicine Subdivision, and they looked at people over the age of 50. So I'd like those of you who are over 50 to stand up right now. Okay, well, you know what? Why don't you all try, and those of you as well. Okay, just try standing up right now. And one of the things they found was, now you don't have to do this if you don't feel comfortable. Maybe if you're going to try it, have someone close to you, because I don't want to jeopardize things. But are you able to, standing, are you able to lift one leg up and keep your balance? Okay, you have to do it for 10 seconds. Okay, and then try the other side, 10 seconds. Wow, you guys are all really, really good. Yeah. So the study shows if you can't do that, your risk for dying is 2 times higher over the next 10 years. They've done these big prospective studies. So one of the keys that we're going to learn about exercise is you got to learn about what to do to really enable you to be a servant of God. If God calls you to the mission field and you're out in Nepal, like some of my colleagues, you've got to be able to handle the physical stress. Or God calls you to downtown Toronto to help out, or the food bank when you're standing for a long period of time. All right, so please be seated. Okay, so that's just a little, a little tip of the iceberg of what we're going to be sharing about. We do have a handout that's 2 pages, which is maybe the key slides that has a lot of information that would be hard to track down, but you can certainly jot down things. And hopefully, if the video, oh yeah, I'm co-choking. Hopefully, the video recording goes well, and then you can re-watch this in the future as well, right? Now, I'm asked, Pastor Stephen, he's going to say a word of grace. And as he comes up, anybody have a really pressing question that they would like answered today so we can maybe flex? Anybody want to just ask, what would you like to hear today? Any questions? Anybody? Back pain? Okay, so I'll have something about back pain. That's my baby. Neck pain. Okay. I might have you come up and I'll demonstrate things if you want on posture, but we'll... Actually, Dr. Kevin Ho is here. Kevin, I might grab you to come up. He's... actually, Kevin invited, he and his wife, Anita, invited us to one church. So thank you, Kevin. He's a good brother in Christ. We've worked together since the 90s, right? And 2000 or 15 years or so, right? And he's a chiropractor. He's also a ICU nurse, Kevin. So if you really have a major issue, Kevin's the guy to see. I also have another colleague of mine, a good friend, Rob McDonald, Rob there, and he's an osteopathic doctor. He's also, I call him the James Bond of all my allied health. He travels the world. He's got incredible technology. Also a registered acupuncturist, a traditional Chinese medicine doctor, and a registered massage therapist. So thanks, Rob, for coming out too. Okay, Annie?
Okay, so how do I not choke the mic? Hold it like this? Okay, great. Okay, so hold your stomachs, okay? We're about 10, 15 minutes away from the soup. So we thought we would just maybe start with our first segment and try to keep your attention. I know that your stomachs are growling, but it's coming, it's coming. So I think what I'll do then, in view of time, and to be able to have some Q&A time at the end of it as well, we're going to start our session right now. So the first part is we're going to talk about eating. So I know that the slide says eat, pray, and move, but in actual fact, we're going to talk about eat, move, and sleep. Because as physicians, we do find that a lot of people don't eat well, they don't move enough, and they don't sleep well, as we saw from the show of hands earlier. And so we would like to take this time and speak into that. And we will leave our wonderful pastors and leaders of this church to speak about praying. So for the next little while, let's talk about how we can eat better, move better, and sleep better for better health. This is just a reminder that the children are downstairs making their shakes and their wraps. Okay, just a little medical disclaimer before we give all of our talks. Usually we just want to say that although the information that we're giving to you is principle-based and is true and accurate, we do not want that to take the place of what medical advice that your own healthcare practitioner is giving to you. So for instance, don't go off your medicines just because what we're talking about today. Speak to your own doctor, please. So one of the reasons why we do what we do, and again, we're so grateful that God has given us this opportunity to serve the community in our medical practice and also to come here and give you this talk, is found in 1 Corinthians 6, 19-20, which says, "Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body." So as faith believers, we must remember that God created us, God died for us, and God lives within us. And hence, we must honor God with our body. So we're going to jump right into how can we eat better? How can we eat right? And the verse for this is 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. So the next time you put something in your mouth, think about it. Is it glorifying God? Is it helping this body? Now, I'm going to talk about a couple of rules, many of which you might know already, many of which you might not know. But feel free to write down some questions and we can address them later on. The first rule is eat 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I don't think this is new. I think many of you already know this. You've heard it from your parents, you've heard it from your teachers, you've heard it from your colleagues, and you've read about it. But let's talk about why. So fresh fruits and vegetables are really nutrient dense, and this is what our body needs. Not all calories are the same. You can drink a can of Coke with 150 calories in it, which has no nutrition whatsoever. But you can also have 5 cups of broccoli, which has the same amount of calories, but it's loaded with nutrients and vitamins and minerals. Fresh fruits and vegetables also are fiber rich, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more. They are also antioxidants. So oxidation, think about the rust on the car that builds up over time. Same process happens in our body, in our blood vessels, and in our organs. And when we eat more fruits and vegetables, it actually helps delay this oxidation process. They are also anti-inflammatory. We do know that most diseases now are actually inflammatory based. That includes cancer, that includes diabetes, that includes heart disease. So when we eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, they are anti-inflammatory and they help to reduce this inflammation in our body. Now, fresh fruits and vegetables are loaded with carotenoids. Carotenoids are nutrients like the lutein and the beta-carotene, and they are what makes up the colorful vegetables that we eat. Carotenoids are found in our eyes, so the more you eat, it actually helps to prevent eye disease like macular degeneration as you get older. Carotenoids are loaded in our skin, so for those of you, they can be anti-aging the more you eat. Carotenoids are loaded in our liver, and our liver is a major detoxifying organ, which we need. So we want a healthy liver. And carotenoids are also loaded in our brain and our nerve cells. So eating lots of fresh fruits and vegetables is not just good for our physical health, it's also good for our mental health. And this slide this prompts me to talk about this emerging field called nutritional psychiatry. This is a paper that was released in 2019, and it basically looked at 100 other studies out there looking at how nutrition affects our mental health. And basically the bottom line is better nutrition does decrease the risk of depression and anxiety. And this is actually the first paper, the first trial that was published in 2017. And it looked at people who with moderate to severe depression. 33 of them were put in a dietary group. 34 were put in a control or social support group. And they were observed over a period of 12 weeks. And at the end, they used the Montgomery-Åsberg Depression Rating Scale to evaluate their symptoms. And the results were that those who were in the dietary group had a 32% reduction in their depression versus those in the control group who only had an 8% reduction. So this is the first trial published in 2017 that actually did show that nutrition reduces depression. Now, what was the diet that they had? It was basically the modified Mediterranean diet. A diet that is, again, full of fresh fruits and vegetables, a diet with lots of fish, seeds and nuts, a diet that is low in alcohol, low in sugar, and low in animal products. And it wasn't about the calories. You didn't have to lose weight in order to feel better. So, the first rule, 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables. The second rule, eat more fiber. Eat more fiber. Back in the hunter-gatherer days, people would probably eat about 100 grams of fiber a day. Now, about 95% of people don't even get 10 grams of fiber a day. So no wonder we have so many bowel issues and problems with constipation. So as a rule, women need about 25 grams of fiber, men need about 38 grams of fiber. And this is just one way in which you can get that. You can have a cup of oats for breakfast, an apple mid-morning, some lentils and spinach throughout the day for lunch or dinner, and an avocado. If you don't like oats, swap it up with another fruit. If you don't like lentils, swap it up with another serving of vegetables. So you can see that if you strive for your 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables, you will get your required amount of fiber. And why is fiber important? Well, it's obvious. Fiber moves our bowels, right? And bowels hold the waste products in our body. Why would you want to keep the waste products longer than you need to? It's better to take the garbage out once a day than once a week. Why is fiber also good? Fiber also is good for mental health. Did you know that? It is. Fiber feeds the good bacteria in your gut, which makes up the microbiome. And when this happens, it improves your immune system and it sends signals to your brain to say that all is well, we are calm down here. But if you eat the standard North American diet that is high in sugar, high in fats and bad oils and things like that, what that does is it feeds the bad bacteria in your gut, the bad bacteria in your microbiome. It reduces your immune system and it sends signals to your brain that there's chaos going on here. So, 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables, 25 to 38 grams of fiber per day. Food rule number 3, eat your healthy fats. Okay, eat your healthy fats. We do need to eat fat because our cells are lined with fat or lipids. So it's not about a fat-free diet at all. However, what kind of fats are the best fats? The omega-3 fats. So this is what we find in fish. But the problem with fish is there's a lot of mercury in it. Okay, if you're not getting good quality fish or if you're getting farmed fish. So you can remember this mnemonic, SMASH, stands for salmon, preferably wild, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. So try to eat more of your omega-3 SMASH fish. Healthy fats are also found in nuts and seeds, and also in avocados and olives. Now, many people ask me all the time, what's the best cooking oil to use? There's lots of them out there, but honestly, I find the best is avocado and extra virgin olive oil. Avocado oil I use to cook with because you can heat it up at a high temperature and it will not get denatured. Extra virgin olive oil is meant to be eaten at room temperature with your salads. You can heat with it, but low to medium temperature. Not high temperature because it denatures the oil and it no longer is healthy for you. So keep that in mind. Avocado for cooking and extra virgin olive oil for your salads and low temperature cooking. And why again are the omega-3 fats good? Because again, our brains are made up of 60% of DHA, which is found in the omega-3 fats. So eating a diet that is high in the omega-3 is also good for brain function, emotional health. Food rule number 4, cut the sugar. And I'm glad we're not having any pop or juice boxes here today. Because sugar is not just the white stuff that you put in your coffee and your tea. Sugar is found in a lot of hidden sources in our food. Look at the label, high fructose corn syrup. If you see that, that is straight sugar. See, back in 1980s, when they thought that fat was the culprit, they took it, the food industry took it out of the food and instead loaded it with more sugar in the form of high fructose corn syrup. Back then, they produced about 6,000 tons a year. Now we're producing about 9 million tons a year. And that's what our food is laden with, okay? You see high fructose corn syrup, you see it in the bubble tea that a lot of this young people like to buy. You see it in your frappuccinos when you go to Starbucks. I'm not putting down Starbucks. I actually like their coffee, but I don't go for their sugary drinks. You see it in barbecue sauce. You see it in salad dressings as well. Read the label. High fructose corn syrup is literally just sugar. In fact, it's worse than sugar. It's more toxic than sugar. It tastes sweeter than sugar. It sensitizes your taste buds to want to eat more sugar. So you want to be mindful of that. And you know what, again? Since they put in the high fructose corn syrup in all of our foods, there's been an epidemic of diabetes, and obesity. And now about 70% of North Americans are probably overweight, and there are more people, or I should say, about the same number of people dying of complications of obesity as people dying of starvation and malnutrition. Now, think about a can of Coke. There's about 9 teaspoons of sugar in there. That's a lot. Did you know that? 9 teaspoons. And even a glass of juice, 6 teaspoons of sugar. That's why I always tell my patients, cut the pop, cut the juice. Have the fruit, have a glass of water. Don't even buy juice boxes for your kids, please. You're sensitizing their taste buds. They want to have more sugar, okay? So you might think, okay, well, if pop is so bad, should I be drinking diet pop? And the answer is no. A lot of you already know that, right? No. And here is a study that shows that. They looked at 66,000 women, followed over 14 years, and they found that those who drink 2 cans of diet pop a week doubled their risk of diabetes. You might think, why? Couple of reasons. First off, diet pop has aspartame. Aspartame is a chemical. Aspartame messes with that center in your brain that tells you you are full, tricks you into thinking you're not full. So what happens in the end? You end up eating more, eating more, eating more. And plus again, aspartame is very sweet. All these drinks with sweeteners in it, even stevia, it actually tastes sweeter than sugar. What it does again is it sensitizes your taste buds, and then you end up craving sugar in other forms. So diet pop is not any better. So again, food rules, 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables, 25 to 30 grams of fiber, eat your healthy fats, cut your sugar, and avoid the ultra-processed foods. I don't think we're having any today, except maybe the buns, but that's okay. Okay, ultra-processed foods. This is basically everything you see on the slide here. Everything on the left, all your fried foods, your fast foods, loaded with your bad fats and your trans fats. These things will clog your arteries, lead to heart disease, high blood pressure, and stroke. Down at the bottom there, I don't know if my pointer will show, obviously your cold cuts, not a great option either. Loaded with salt, loaded with chemicals like nitrites and sulfites, and loaded with animal fats, not the healthy fats that we were talking about. This is, again, very popular among students because it's tasty and it's cheap. But it really is not a wholesome food, right? It's just a chemical food. Loaded with MSG. MSG is a chemical that, again, will mess with our brain, make us want to eat more, and cause us to weight gain. And look at this. Who eats this for breakfast? Common, yeah. It's a breakfast cereal, okay? It's always advertised as healthy. It is not healthy, far from it, unless you have a very high fiber cereal. This is not healthy. This is like pure carb, even if it is not sugar coated. Even if you just get the regular corn flakes or Cheerios, not healthy, because what it is just pure carb. When you eat it, it spikes your sugar. It has a very high glycemic index. So ultra-processed foods to avoid. And why? Let's talk about some of the studies. Ultra-processed foods, again, not only bad for your health, but also increases your risk of depression and anxiety. And here are 2 studies that were released, Nutrients 2022 and Public Health Nutrition 2022 as well. So very recent studies looking at basically those who ate ultra-processed food had a 1.5 times increased risk of depression and anxiety. Ultra-processed food also increases your risk of dementia as well. So if any of you are a little bit concerned about what's coming down the pipe, cut out the ultra-processed foods now while you can, okay? 2 great studies here, also recently released in 2022 and 2023. Basically, these are prospective studies, and basically showed that, for instance, this study looked at over 10,000 Brazilians, and they followed them for 9 years. And they found that those who ate a lot of ultra-processed foods scored 25% lower in their memory and 28% lower in their verbal fluency. And this is the big C, the one that everybody's always afraid of. Ultra-processed food increases your risk of cancer as well. Okay, 2 great studies here, also very recent. We can give you the information if you want to know more details. But for every 10% increase in ultra-processed food, there's a 16% increase in breast cancer deaths and 30% in ovarian cancer deaths. And men will also have 29% increase in colon cancer. So again, if you want to prevent dementia, prevent cancer, and all these bad diseases that we're talking about, cut out the ultra-processed food in your diet. Okay, so another food rule, we're going to go through this very quickly. Read your labels, okay? Don't get fooled with marketing. Marketing says no GMO, marketing that says it's healthy, marketing that says it's no trans fat. Read the label. Their label tells you so much more. So here, we have something called the 5-10-10-5 rule. You want to look for something that has less than 5 ingredients. The reason? If it has more than 5 ingredients, especially words that you can't even pronounce, it's probably a chemical. And we consume over 10 pounds of chemicals a year. We don't want chemicals. Secondly, it should have less than 10 grams per serving. Anything more than 10 grams, look at it as a dessert, okay? My husband bought some sugar tarts, pecan tarts from Costco the other day for his fellowship. I looked at it, small little tart, 27 grams of sugar. And I thought, Gord, this is equal to 3 desserts. What are you doing? So less than 10 grams of sugar, greater than 10 grams of protein per serving if you can. Of course, this is a little difficult to do because most products don't have a lot of protein in it. If they do, it's either a protein shake or a protein bar. However, try to aim for more protein, and the reason for that is more protein, less sugar, helps to stabilize your blood sugar so you don't go through those highs and lows that he was talking about. Because if you eat a breakfast with a lot of sugar in it, you'll want to fall asleep by mid-morning. Again, we talked about fiber and how important that is. You want to look for something that has more than 5 grams of fiber per serving. And then look at the carb-fiber ratio, less than 5, okay? So you look at the carbs. Here's the carbs, 34 grams, and the fiber. Hello? Okay. And the fiber, less than 1 gram. So this ratio is 34. Obviously not good. When you have a high carb to fiber ratio, again, it just spikes your blood sugar. And it's just like ingesting sugar, basically. You don't want that. Okay? So remember your 5-10-10-5 rule. Another pearl is eat only till you're 80% full. Not 100%, not 120%. So that probably means that we shouldn't be going to buffets. This lunch is probably optimal because it won't get us there, okay? And again, why? Because this is a secret that the centurions in all the blue zones in the world know. They only eat till they're 80% full. And this is basically a chart of what your plate should look like, okay? Oftentimes it doesn't, but according to Canada Food Guideline, and I agree with it, you want half your plate to be your fruits and vegetables, a quarter of your plate to be your lean proteins, whether it's egg or fish or poultry, and then another quarter of your plate to be your carb. And it's okay if you want to have your white bread or your pasta or rice here. It's even better if you choose red rice, brown rice, quinoa, or something like that. So, summary. As we talked about, eat 5 to 10 servings of fruits and veggies per day because of the carotenoids. Not only good for your body, good for your brain. Eat more fiber. Not only good for your bowels, good for your brain. Eat your healthy fats. Not only good for your body, good for your brain. Avoid the sugar. Look for the high fructose corn syrup on the label. If it is, try not to buy it. Avoid ultra-processed foods because, again, they're loaded with chemicals and loaded with the bad fats. Basically, if God made it, it's good for you. If man made it in a plant, it's probably bad for you. And the shorter the distance from the fork to your plate, the shorter the distance from the farm to your fork, the better it is for you. Eat, remember your 5-10-10-5 rule, and then eat only till you're 80% full. So in essence, as Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. If you eat this way, food will be your medicine. If you eat this way, medicine will be your food. Thank you. I think we're ready for lunch.
There is something called learning how to breathe to get into what we call a de-stressed parasympathetic state. Everybody hear about the Navy SEALs? Okay, you know what do the Navy SEALs do before a major takeout mission? And maybe what the Leafs did, not for game 1, for game 2, okay? They did something called box breathing. Anybody hear of box breathing? Okay, so what you can do is you get the parasympathetic nervous system in your body going, which will help you digest and help you rest, digest and rest, as opposed to the sympathetic nervous system, which is making you fight or flight, in a fight or flight state. So what the Navy SEALs do is they do this box breathing where, and we can all try this now, providing you've finished chewing your food, okay? Where you just breathe in for 4 seconds through your nose. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Now, as you breathe in, make sure your stomach is coming out and your lower ribs are coming outwards. So you're breathing into your stomach, not shallow into your chest. So let's try that again. Let's do it. Let's do a proper breathe in. Okay, so breathe out. Okay, don't turn blue on me. So breathe in again through your nose. Make sure your stomach is expanding out. Hold your breath now for 4 seconds with your stomach out. Now breathe out slowly for 4 seconds, starting with your stomach rising. Breathing it all out. Hold your breath out now for 4 seconds. And then what you can do is breathe in again through your nose. Now, what the Navy SEALs do, what studies have shown is if you can cycle doing this regularly, let's say 4 cycles of 4x4 box breathing, it gets your body into a parasympathetic state so you're ready for the mission. So before going on stage, I was doing my 4x4 breathing. When I go to sleep at night, I will try to de-stress and I'll do my 4x4 breathing type of approach. And that's a simple tool that you can use even when you sit down to eat a meal, because you want to get into a parasympathetic state so you can digest your food better, right? So that sort of leads us into the exercise part. Chew your food, enjoy your food, and let's move forward. And if you still feel sleepy, you had too much sugar for your breakfast, okay? So, and there's Annie. You know, again, stop and smell the roses. Enjoy your trip, and stand in the center when you talk. Now, Hippocrates, back in 400 BC, he's the father of modern medicine, and he said basically that walking is man's best medicine. How many of you today have gone for a walk already outside? Anybody? Okay, not before church? I know Pastor Keith would do this. He would get out and he would sometimes walk around in preparing, before he would lead a service, right? And Hippocrates also said that if you are in a bad mood, go for a walk. And if you're still in a bad mood, go for another walk, right? It's probably as good as, popping pills or antidepressants or St. John's wort, stuff like that. Why not just go for a walk? So my prescription for you today is after lunch and after the session, when you get home, go for a walk and enjoy the sun. It's still out there. Now, the father of back spine health, Stu McGill, Professor Emeritus at the University of Waterloo, he says walking is non-negotiable for back spine health. And there he is. And if you're trying to get abs so you look good in a bathing suit, don't just do sit-ups, right? It's actually going to create stresses on the discs in your back. And he has a protocol called the McGill Big Three that you can learn about. You could Google that. He's published his books on this. This is stuff that I will do before I go to bed. As I'm doing some meditation stuff, I will actually do my McGill Big Three. And you can modify it if you have issues with your knees, your wrists, and back. And it's described in the book. And we can talk about it in the Q&A as well. So now, did you know that Professor Dr. James Levine, Professor of Medicine at Mayo Clinic, he stated that smoking, sitting is really the new smoking. How many of you sit for 4 hours straight at work? Okay. Did you know that if you do that regularly, daily, the stress on your heart is equal to that of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day? Right? So if you're sitting, it's a new smoking. And not only that, but when you're sitting like that, your head tends to go forward and you start to get neck pain. And I know we bought these Costco Trisanti sit-stand tables to try to stand when we're doing our keyboard work. But even then, some of us have had to struggle with neck pain with all the computer work, right? So I'm going to show you some things that you can do to help counteract the new smoking. One is try to maybe every 30 minutes or so, you can do the sit squats, stand squats. There are actually longevity studies showing that the number of squats you can do in a minute is correlated with how long you live, right? So maybe after 30 minutes, after an hour, maybe set a timer. Just do your 10 up and down squats. And Dr. Gillen, who's a PhD kinesiologist at the University of Toronto, found that if you can do toe raises as well and reach up, your insulin spikes go down. So there's less of a risk for diabetes as well if you just add these simple components to your routine when you're sitting for long hours at a desk. Or if you're a truck driver, or if you're like a hairdresser doing prolonged standing in one position, you've got to move and change things around. And then another thing you could do is you could also even do your arm dips to sort of, you want to avoid the flabby arms as we get older, so you could get your triceps going. Do push-ups if you can, right? These are things that you got to try to build into your routine to really help with avoiding the new smoking, right? And even in the Bible, the author of Hebrews said that no discipline, like exercise, seems pleasant at the time but painful. But later on, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace. Peace of your body, mind, spirit, for those who have been trained by it. Therefore, interestingly, the author says, strengthen your feeble arms and your weak knees. So maybe do your push-ups, get your squats in there. Build that into a routine, especially if you sit for long periods of time. Right? And when you get outside, the magic number is 150 minutes a week. And maybe at the end, we'll have a quiz to see who can remember. We should do a study if you had carrot soup versus the spicy Italian, who has better memory, right? But if you have 150 minutes per week of moderate exercise, you will reduce your risk. And these are big studies. This is 99,713 adults followed for 7.6 to 10.6 years. These are studies that just have come out with the explosion in data analytics in the last 2 years. And if you can get to that level and do it consistently, your risk for all-cause death goes down 32%. And if you just get some weight training, some strength training, get some maybe light weights to keep the arms strong, doing some squats as well, you can get your strength weight training. It goes down to 41% for all causes of death. So these are big studies. And if you don't exercise, you got to start doing it. And a paper that I just read yesterday, which I made a slide of it, but we can't modify it. But what they found was start your exercise anytime. It doesn't matter what stage you are. Just even 5 or 10 minutes a day is going to reduce your all causes of mortality. Just doing a little, shifting to a more active state will really, in 10 years' time, your mortality rates are much lower, right? So just start to just be more active. But 150 minutes, which is 20 to 30 minutes a day, would be great of moderate exercise. And my prescription for you is to try to do it outside. You get the vitamin D, the fresh air. Maybe you get grounded in nature. As William Sears says, it's like exercise squared. And if anybody here taking vitamin D right now? Okay, so that's better than it was 10 years ago, about half the group of you. So vitamin D is probably the #1 vitamin you guys have got to be looking at. I mean, the French Academy of Medicine about 4 months ago, had a new statement that if you get COVID and you're under age 60, first thing you do, take 2,000 international units a day of vitamin D. If you're above age 60 and you get COVID, they don't even bother with you taking oral vitamin D. They start an IV in you, and they shove into your body 50 to 100,000 IUs of vitamin D. And that's because they'll measure the levels. So vitamin D is not just a simple vitamin. It's a pro-hormone. It affects 2,000 genes of the 30,000 genes in your body. It's a big-time player, right? So it's not only good for thin bones and osteoporosis, but the higher the levels you get, the more you can prevent heart disease. It's good for your lungs. It's good for preventing cancer. It's good for your mental health. And it's good for your immune system and fighting cancer and infections. So through the winter, I was taking, and you don't have to, I mean, you can, if you really want to be accurate, ask your doctor to measure vitamin D. And then you can take vitamin D according to what you should be taking based on your blood levels. But Dr. Alan Gaby, who's done 30 years of work on GABY, 30 years of work on vitamin D, one of the guys that I follow, he recommends that the average Torontonian takes 4,000 IUs of vitamin D a day in the winter, 2,000 IUs of vitamin D a day in the summer. Now, on a nice summer day, if I rip off my shirt and lie in the backyard and get some sun exposure, after about 30 to 40 minutes, my skin will make 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. So I'll skip my vitamin D that day, right? So I think look at your vitamin D. This is a key. One pearl that you can get from today that you can apply to really help with your immune system is get your vitamin D level checked and looked at, and then also get active. So here's how we prescribe exercise. Remember the mnemonic, We Fit. It's on your handout. And you want to start by limbering up. You don't want to just go right into getting on a treadmill. You want to limber up, get the joints moving. You want to end with some cool down where you can do some stretching and just to rest and recover. And again, you want to aim for that 20 to 30 minutes at your target heart rate 3 to 5 times a week. The intensity of exercise should be moderately vigorous. And for those of you who are not on a pacemaker or on beta blockers or have medical issues, you can do a calculation where you take your target heart rate and use this Carotenoid formula, 220 minus your age minus your resting heart rate, which you can measure on yourself when you wake up in the morning when you're at rest. Not after a nightmare, though, okay? So, and then you can calculate a target heart rate that you can aim for, and then you can have a trackable like a Fitbit or your Apple Watch, things like that. Now, another clue that you're exercising at your target heart rate is you can hear yourself talk but not sing. So if you're sort of walking and you're singing "God Save Our Gracious King" or "Oh Canada," you're not exercising intense enough. Okay, but if you're walking and you're running and you can't hear yourself talking, you're overdoing it. And there are studies now on people who are overdoing it, causing accelerated heart disease. So you have to know how to do the proper balance to move enough, but not, to get that right balance. Another clue that you're at a target heart rate is you can hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself panting. Or when you break out in a sweat, you're sort of at your target heart rate. And again, what's the time, guys? How many minutes a week? 50? Okay, so I want to just ingrain that. And if you have trouble with your knees, joint pain, this is the commonest question I get. You can look at Aqua Joggling. your target heart rate would be 10% lower in the pool because of the hydrostatic effects of water. And you can actually work on train your legs and feet. So when I fractured my hip in a car accident, when I had my left knee surgery after hockey, and my ankle fracture dislocation surgery, after each of those three major traumas, I got in the pool. And that was also psychologically helpful because I was so depressed with the crutches and the swelling of swollen joints. So getting in the pool really makes a difference. And if you get an Aqua Jogger, get the extra buoyant one, because if you get the regular Aqua Jogger, you sort of have to tilt your head back to keep your head above the water. But if you get an extra buoyant one, it sort of allows you to train in the pool. Make sure if you have flat feet, you have orthotics too, right? Now, here's a question for you. Here's a quiz question. Let's see who gets it right here. To make exercise easy, enjoyable, you want to, obviously schedule it. The morning time would be better for exercise in general. But there's also something called the C to make exercise consistent. And how many of you would say commitment is the answer? Writing it down how many of you would say companionship is the answer? So a couple of you again. How many would say camaraderie, like with a team? So the rest of you say competition? Okay, well, Steve, you got it. Okay. So competition, this is a study done back in 2016, and they compared different groups in terms of exercise over 12 weeks, actually going up this 3 months, and they found that people who compete in the top line, in the red, either they compete against themselves, so they're tracking the number of steps, or they're competing with friendly competition with others, will be the ones who consistently exercise on a consistent basis. Whereas the lowest group was not the control group where they didn't have anybody helping them, but it was actually the companionship group where you have someone who is just, let's just go to the gym, and then, I don't feel well today, okay, well, let's skip. And their compliance with exercise is actually lower, right? So if you're going to go to the gym, make it build a competition thing in, like whether you're competing with yourself or against another person. That's how to exercise consistently, right? And we talked about breathing. So the belly breathing that I talked about is actually used as first line to help kids when they're anxious. So instead of popping a Ativan, look at learning to breathe. Learn this. They call it the balloon technique with children. And I think the last thing I want to close with. And I took this picture when we were relaxing at a spa there. And so we talked about the 10-second test, right? The number one cause of injury death in adults over age 50, number one cause worldwide in North America, I should say North America more as opposed to war regions, number one cause of injury death worldwide is falls. And they say that in Canada, 1 in 3 older adults will have a fall. And if you have a fall, 1 in 5 of those falls is serious. Either you injure your head, brain injury, concussion, or you break a bone. Fractured hips are the leading causes of hospitalizations and also admissions to nursing homes, right? So, and again, if you have an older relative who falls, 1 in 5 patients will actually even mention it to their family doctor. So if you see someone that's starting to fall, get them help. Falls can be prevented. And I have a sort of a mnemonic on how to prevent falls. Fallen, F-A-L-L-E-N. Haven't put this on a slide yet, but F is, so the first F means if you fall once, you have a 2 times more likelihood of falling again within the next 6 months. So if you fall once, watch out. A is alcohol and prescription drugs and even over-the-counter drugs. If you're taking antihistamines, sleeping pills, medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, you could fall, and that increases your risk for falling. So you got to watch what you're taking. L is low vitamin D. Another reason to get your vitamin D level and measured and get that optimized. LE is lower extremity problems. So if you have neuropathy in your feet where you don't feel it very well, you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, if you have bad arthritis, that's a risk factor for falling, and you've got to deal with that. and it's neurological. It could be an early sign of Parkinson's disease. It could be an early sign of other types of brain degenerative type of disorders, right? So where's the commonest place that you fall? Anybody know? Bathroom, right? 70% of falls in the bathroom. And, this happened to my mom. My mom, I remember she was trying to reach for something, stood up on the bathtub and fell, and we had to end up rushing her to emerge. And this is when she used to live in her own home. And then in 2015, Easter, that's when my dad passed away. And he was at home. And I remember the call, we were driving back from Costco, got a call from my mom. Dad fell, and he fell head first down 11 straight steps and shattered every bone in his neck. That's probably one of my most traumatic times in my life, going back and forth to Sunnybrook and surgical ICU and seeing him. And he passed away Easter 2015. So, try not to fall, guys. Don't fall. And if you can help a relative, get the word out and just do the exercises, get out, be active, and just let's help the community of believers in our church be stronger to serve Him, right? Strengthen those feeble arms and weak knees, right, guys? So I think that's it for falls. Okay, so don't fall, guys. Right? Annie once tripped on a stage. Remember that time you tripped on stage?
Yes, I did. Actually, before you leave, okay, let's get everybody up and do an exercise, Gord, before we get into our last session of insomnia, because we don't want people falling asleep while we're talking about our last.
Okay. Go ahead. So what exercise should we do? All right. So, well, we did the 10-second test already. Okay, chair squats. Okay. Well, let me. Well, why don't you? Okay, you demonstrate. Okay, here.
Steve, you can demonstrate for us.
No, let me get Sabrina. Can you come up? Sabrina, can you come up here? I want to get, because Sabrina is our good friend, and she knows my limitations, and she. But yeah, well, just come on. Yeah, bring a chair up. Okay, Sabrina. We want to get everybody's brain going. So, what would you suggest we do, Sabrina? Okay, chair squats. Okay, so do you want to instruct Annie what to do?
No.
All right, I'll do it.
Okay, so you're going to keep... Oh, I have to talk into this, right? Okay, so, let's have everyone sit down first. You've done half of it already. Okay, good. So your feet are going to be... Oh, I have to be in the middle. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So your feet are going to be about hip width apart. You're going to drive. You're going to first lean forward just slightly. You're going to put all your weight through your heels and your toes, and you're just going to lift as high up as you can through the knees, and good. That was perfect.
Okay, so we should do.
You're just going to 10 of those.
Okay, let's do 10, guys. 10. This will get the brain.
Press through the heels.
And make sure you do if you're scared, do your box breathing, right? So
Push the hips forward. Good. And then you're just going to sit back down.
3. How about making it a little harder for the guys, like the younger guys? So should we do...
Should we add a jump? Oh, on the toes. Okay. So now this time when you come up, you're going to breathe out as you go up. And then after you stand, you're going to go all the way on your tippy toes. Try to reach as high up as you can. Good. And then go back down to your heels. And then you're going to sit back and relax. Good. Okay, one more. You're going to stand. Good. You're going to go.
You're going to praise God.
All the way on your tippy toes. Reach up as high up as you can. Good. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. Good. Back to your heels.
Wait, you up there. Just go like this. And you're going to feel a little stretch through your hamstrings. And you want to just unload any stresses or anxiety. God, we don't need, the stresses. Just unload that onto the ground, right? So that's a little. Okay. Is that enough? Is that enough? Okay.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Gord, for demonstrating that. Okay, so we're now going to head into our last session, which is on sleep. So, I need my... Thank you. Okay. Oh, that was supposed to be an animation, but that's okay. All right. So the answer is up there already. I was going to ask, what is the average number of hours a person needs to sleep? More? This way? Sorry. Okay. 7 to 8 hours. Yes. A koala bear can sleep about 20 hours a day, but the average adult really does need about 7 to 8 hours a day for healthy sleep. And I think most of us don't reach that, right? So studies have shown again that if you sleep consistently less than 6 hours a night or consistently more than 9 hours a night, you are 1.5 times increased risk of mortality. And I have found that in my practice for adults, the main reason why people can't sleep is anxiety. It's just anxiety. You know, as we get older, life is hard on us. We worry about what's happening tomorrow. We get depressed about what happened yesterday, and our minds just can't unwind. And so much of it, again, is not necessary, absolutely not, and we can lift them to God. And so one of the verses that I like to recite for myself is Philippians 4:6-8. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer, petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and may his peace, which transcends all understanding, guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. So insomnia. Insomnia is inability to fall asleep or to stay asleep. Who would say here has insomnia? That's it? Wow, that's pretty good. I thought it would be a lot more than that. Now, prior to COVID-19, about 25% of Canadians would suffer from some form of insomnia. During the pandemic, evidence showed that these rates increased because of all the mental health issues that were going on. And by the time they come and see me for insomnia, 80% are already in an emotional crisis. Because why? They've been suffering with insomnia for a while. They've tried to treat themselves, they've tried to buy Gravol or all sorts of medications over the counter to try to help them before coming to see me. And again, what this slide is just trying to show is that if you do have insomnia, you do increase your long-term complications of overall mortality. My pointer's not working, but that's okay. If you can see on that slide, it increases the risk of anxiety, depression, stroke, dementia, high blood pressure, diabetes, even cancer. And your overall mortality is increased by about 1 to 2. And this slide is basically just meant to show the two different hormones that are associated with our sleep. And they are cortisol and melatonin. So cortisol goes up in the morning, and that basically makes us awake, ready for the day. Melatonin levels should be low in the morning because melatonin is what makes us drowsy and want to go to sleep. But as the day goes on, your melatonin levels should go up. Our brain actually produces its own melatonin, okay? And that induces sleep and REM sleep. And your cortisol levels should go down. However, there are many things that we do in life that can actually reverse this, and that contributes to our insomnia. So when people come to me and say, I can't fall asleep, or I can't stay asleep, or I have sleep issues, before going to get a supplement, before asking for sleep aid or sleep medication, I always say to them first, okay, let's look at what you're doing during the day. Let's look at what you're doing in the evening. This is called CBTI, or Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia. And these are some of the things that you should do or avoid. So we can go through them quickly. Number 1, try to aim for a consistent sleep schedule. Okay, consistent sleep schedule. Try to wake up around the same time every morning. Doesn't matter if it's Monday to Friday, doesn't matter if you're on holidays, doesn't matter if it's a weekend. Try to get up at the same time, because when you do, that will cause your body to fall asleep around the same time. Secondly, When you wake up in the morning, try to expose yourself to some sunshine. Because again, sunshine helps to chase away that melatonin and raises that cortisol level in your brain. Now, if it's not a sunny day, this morning it was, but if you wake up on a day like today and there's no sunshine, that's okay. Something else that can raise your cortisol level is do high intensity interval training. You can do like 20 jumping jacks on the spot. So some high intensity exercise will also raise your cortisol levels. Or you can also get something like a Verilux lamp, which you can shine on yourself. A lot of people use this for seasonal affective disorder. And again, it helps improve their mood. Now, another thing that I often tell my patients is when you want to sleep, let's say your time is around 10 or 11, an hour before, go into your 1 hour power down hour, okay? So for that 1 hour, try to put away all your electronics. Maybe take a hot shower or a hot bath, because when your body temperature goes down, that actually induces some sleep, a deep sleep. The other thing you can do is just pray or journal or do some stretches or some relaxing activities that hour prior to sleep. That will help you to fall asleep a little bit faster. If you're going to exercise, we usually recommend early in the day. The earlier, the better. Because again, when you exercise, your cortisol levels go up. And I hear all the time, people come back from playing hockey late at night, midnight, and then they're just like wired. They can't fall asleep. So again, you try to exercise as early as you can in the day. And it's okay to nap. Okay, some people are so afraid to nap because they feel like if I nap, I won't be able to sleep later on in the evening. But studies have shown that you can nap 20 to 30 minutes, not more than that. More than that, it will interrupt your sleep schedule. And the ideal time is to nap around 7 hours after awakening. So around 2 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. I find a nap is really good because it refreshes me and gives me the energy to go that second half of the day, but it doesn't interfere with my nighttime sleep. And protect your sleep environment. So your bedroom. Your bedroom should be dark, blackout blinds, or you can wear an eye mask if that helps. Make sure that it's quiet. Remove any unnecessary noise. And studies have also shown that the ideal temperature for the bedroom for sleep is 19 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? The things to avoid, obviously, would be stimulants like caffeine, alcohol, smoking, exercise late at night. Also, eating a heavy meal at night is probably not a good thing because you'll wake up feeling reflux or something like that. And if you drink too much, obviously, that's going to wake you up, and a lot of people have problems falling back asleep after that. Try not to toss and turn in bed. So sleep is like a train schedule, okay? It comes every 90 minutes to 120 minutes, okay? So if you miss that first train, don't toss and turn for the next 90 minutes looking at the clock. That's only going to increase your anxiety. Get out of bed, turn on a dim light, do some journaling, do some reading, and then when the 90 minutes is up, get back into bed and try again. Obviously, we talked about no nighttime exercise, preferably. Obviously, try to avoid watching late night TV, especially news, because news is so depressing these days, or always has been. So again, that plays on your mind. We don't want that. And last but not least, which it does affect many of us. So many of us are working, and we're on our electronics. We're on our phone, we're on our laptops, our computer screens, and the blue light that gets emitted from that does interfere with our own melatonin production. Okay? It actually blocks it from being produced. We don't want that. So make sure that your screen has a blue light protector, or you can wear some blue light glasses. But ideally, as I said, an hour before bedtime, get rid of all that stuff. So here's just a picture of what we were saying. So again, in the morning, expose yourself to sunlight or even a light lamp if you can. Or high-intensity interval training just for 5 minutes. That'll do the trick. Don't be afraid to take a nap around 7 hours, but not longer than 30 minutes, preferably. Make sure you've got your blue light blocking glasses to take away the blue light from your electronics. And and there's my husband there with his sleep mask on, because he really needs a dark room in order to sleep. And then last but not least, this last bit of the slide is just a reminder, sometimes people don't sleep well because they do have sleep apnea, and you want to see whether or not that's an issue for you. Why? Because undiagnosed sleep apnea will increase the risk of heart attack, high blood pressure, stroke, and just dying in your sleep. So here are some clues if you might have sleep apnea. So I think we talked about it earlier. There's some people in the room that snore. That's common. So generally, that's one of the first questions I ask. Do you snore? If you do snore, that is a risk factor for sleep apnea. It doesn't mean that you will have it, but it is a risk factor. If you wake up feeling more tired than refreshed, that's also another sign of potential sleep apnea. So if your partner, if your spouse actually says, yeah, you do have apnea, I have seen you stop breathing in the middle of the night, even for a split second, definitely you should go talk to your family doctor about getting a sleep study. Okay? Some other signs of sleep apnea would be a BMI of greater than 35, so people who are overweight or obese. If you are over the age of 50, Asian and male, that also increases your risk of sleep apnea. And also if you have a large neck size or a narrow airway. Now you may not know that you have a narrow airway, but again, if you can ask your family doctor about that. But when you open up your mouth, basically we're looking to see if we can see the uvula. You know, the little thing that comes down at the center? Why don't you turn to each other right now? It's okay. Turn to a friend, not a stranger. Turn to a friend. Okay. Open, just say, ah, but not forcibly. Not forcibly. Just relaxed. Ah. Okay. Yes. Your tongue can come out a little bit, okay? So again, do you see the uvula at the back? If you cannot see it at all, you have a very narrow airway, and you have a very high risk of sleep apnea, okay? So that's another clue. Now, these are some of the common over-the-counter products that a lot of people tend to run to try to help with their sleep. The best studied is probably melatonin, and I have prescribed melatonin. I generally like to use it on a short-term basis. So if you're traveling or if you're a shift worker, it's fine. I usually don't recommend it on a long-term basis because it'll suppress your own production of melatonin. So remember, our own brains produce melatonin, so we don't want to suppress our own production. But once in a while, if you really need it, that's fine. Go get a supplement. 1 milligram, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams should be fine. And then here is a list of all the common prescription medications for insomnia. I think probably there are some who are taking the benzodiazepines, which is on the first line here. Some of those names you might recognize. I'll be truthful to you. These work really well. They work really well, so well that they are so addictive. If you take those medications for 1 week and you decide not to take it, you won't sleep. So that's the problem with those drugs. Try to avoid them. We don't like to prescribe them, but sometimes, again, people want them because they're traveling or whatever, and they just really need to get that one night's sleep. Once in a while, it's fine, but we don't recommend it because they are highly addictive, and they're also tolerant too, meaning that if you keep taking the same dose after a period of time, it doesn't work for you anymore, and you have to up the dose. So we don't want that. And these drugs are very dangerous for people who are elderly because it causes a lot of dizziness, and we talked about falls. It will promote falls in seniors. So if you're on that, talk to your doctor about trying to get yourself off of them. You need a slow weaning process, because if you just stop cold turkey, you won't be able to sleep. Okay. There are all these other drugs that have been used as well. They basically do have a lot of side effects. Dry eyes, dry mouth, constipation, urinary retention. Generally, try to work on your lifestyle. Try to work on those factors rather than resorting to medications. And remember again, the most common cause for insomnia is probably anxiety or depression of some form in adults. I'm not talking about children, although it is becoming a greater issue among children as well. So remember to cast your cares on God because He cares for you. And pray that I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, O Lord, may make me dwell in safety. Thank you.
Thank you, honey. That was really, makes me sleep better now. I feel better. So if you look at that passage, if you go 3 verses earlier, David, who's writing, he's being pursued by Saul and he's stressed out. He says, in your anger, do not sin. And this ties in as well with sleep, that we really need to not go to bed with anger. 4 is to have joy as well. Joy, and so bad, and having the journaling with gratitude. So every night I have my journal. It's gone back now 4 years, but I'll put down 3 things I've been really thankful for, 3 things I'm still worried about that I can sort of leave and sort of allow myself to try to get to sleep. One app we've found very helpful is Lectio 365. You may have heard about it. It's a free download app. You can listen and meditate on those, the 12 minutes, meditation. And we do this sort of regularly as well, which helps with sleep. Do I have the clicker? Oh. Yep. Okay. So just to finish up, because I know, if we had to put it all together, remember the brain, your immune system that fights off cancer and COVID, the gut, your stomach, what you feed the gut, everything is interconnected. And there's this big nerve, the biggest nerve in the brain called the vagus nerve, VAGUS nerve, goes from the brain to the gut. And for every signal that goes down from the brain to the gut, there are 8 to 9 signals that go up from your gut to your brain. So what you put in your gut really makes a matter to your health. And it's not just feeling bloated or constipated, but it's, everything's all interconnected. So if you feed what's healthy in the gut, you will be better physically, mentally, emotionally. And I think God would help. It would help with our spiritual journey as well. And there's now studies showing that how we meditate, how we pray, actually changes the bacteria in our gut to be healthier. So doing a regular, consistent prayer meditation practice really makes a difference. Dr. Andrew Newberg said, guess how many minutes a day of prayer meditation needs to be done to prevent Alzheimer's from happening? Anybody have a guess? Not 150 minutes a week, it's 12 minutes a day. And this is based on functional quantitative MRI imaging. So if you get into a regular prayer meditation, set aside time, connect with God, that's going to be also good for your brain. And to finish, one of the most important things from all of this that you take home is that, really Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. We learn from his example and how he, when he lived here, we believe that he, as a community, is here with us now and will be with us in the future as well. And he said, really, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. So if you're struggling with a cancer pre-diagnosis, if you're struggling with family issues, disruptions with the kids, the parents, the children, take the yoke that's fitted for you and let Jesus direct you, and get him into the car. So as you drive, as you go on the journey of life, he's there in control. And as Pastor Jonathan talked this morning, let him take charge, and you will find rest for your soul. And that's how we find rest for our soul. And I hope you all find rest for your soul and live a really meaningful, healthier life that can really impact the world for the good. To know God, to love people, and to impact our city. That's what we're all about, guys. Okay, thank you.